My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast, and it's Homegrown Week.
Hey, True Blue.
Oh, no.
Jaywin cooked a roo.
Oh, God, he did too.
Nerman made it with a wallaby. And Aaron made a octopus too.
I'm going to hang you out for that one. I'm just going to let you go.
Hey, True Blue.
All right, so obviously...
We're going to bake with lots of Davidson plums.
So here's the problem. If we keep going with this...
Because it's not a fucking trifle.
Yeah, it's not a fucking trifle. We'll come to that.
It's a friggin' bloody slice.
Hey, True Blue. Okay, now John Williamson will actually want royalties if we keep going.
Yeah, no.
So with that in mind, look, we're going to talk a lot about Homegrown Week, but we do need to start with kind of the most important news of the week.
Ash.
The loss of Ash. I mean, look, the last couple of weeks she talked about not feeling...
Yeah,
well,
she's been experiencing
headaches.
migraines. So obviously something's just not right there, and we hope she's doing better these days.
Yep.
But, wow.
I mean, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
We'll ask her this week. She's on the podcast this week, so
we'll get the goss. We'll
so
get
just
from the insiders and fellows diners.
Insiders and fellow diners can tell us
because
tongues were wagging.
She had dinner with herself.
Yeah, so
and she's inside herself.
Nice work.
Yeah.
So just to give you a few heads up, first of all, the episode with Nav will be up before the weekend. Yeah. Real life got in the way this week, guys. So obviously, it's been a long week. So
we've celebrated Kristie-mas. Thank you to all the...
There were lots of wishes.
Lots of lovely wishes that came through. And we've got a new member of the family who's currently in ISO. His scent is being introduced into the household. It is a cat. We just haven't a
person
had a baby.
Or just locked a person in a room.
Just locked them in the room.
Tantor Tiger, first of his name.
Yes. Cute, funny, talks a lot.
Yes. So you may actually hear bits of Tantor Tiger during this episode.
Yes.
But in the meantime, we will have the Nav episode up by the weekend, and then hopefully early next week we will have the episode up where we will get to talk to the wonderful and amazing Ash.
Yeah.
Because again, I had high hopes for Ash.
Yeah, I missed her in the shed tonight. Like her bakes there's some of the things I've been looking forward to see each week.
I think she would have been brilliant this week too. So anyway,
what do you reckon she would have made?
I don't know.
We can find out tomorrow night.
We'll ask.
But
we can ask her this week. Well, this week when we talk to her.
Animal. I'm guessing she'd just make a full blue whale. Are they Australian? A southern right whale.
There you go, southern right whale.
Back.
Part of the problem is if you make a southern right whale, everybody's natural instinct inside the shed is going to be to push it out into the Parramatta River.
Just, the Irish blows.
Yeah, just get it out into the bay and just get it out. No, it's beached. It's beached. So, in terms of this week, we begin with the announcement about Ash. Look, I don't know what I expected. I kind of thought a little bit more, but I get it. But I kind of thought maybe a little bit more. Ash going home.
But if you notice, in all Bakeoffs, when someone's had to leave like that, they acknowledge it, but they don't dwell on it. I think it's, and I think they might have actually, thinking about it from my perspective, just using my empathy. If I was in the shed and in this baking group at this time when it's so intense because of the COVID issue and just all that kind of stuff going on, they might have swung a little bit back the other way because the emotions were real and raw. So just kind of having to compartmentalize hard.
We've only seen it once in Australia, obviously, with Laura.
Yeah.
So obviously, and I do look forward to the idea of, I think that next season they should have a bake-off between just Laura and Ash, because neither of them have ever been eliminated.
Yes.
So I think this has to happen. So it could be fantastic.
Maybe it could be like a Christmas special.
Just them.
Just them.
No one else.
No.
2 of them.
Yeah.
3 challenges to the death.
I'd like to see an Australian Bake-Off Christmas special.
That could be really fun.
Yeah.
Especially since Maggie kept on referencing how damned hot it was. Anyway, so let's get into the actual challenges themselves. Before we do that, Aaron, Aaron has a night.
He does.
Aaron has an absolute night. He's in the first scene. He's definitely in the last scene. Come to that in a moment.
A lot of gravity in tonight's episode.
I loved Aaron's first comment of "There's wattle trees everywhere. I didn't know you can make the seeds into bread."
Well, Aaron, now I just imagine that you're out during the season where you can harvest the wattle seeds. You're just out foraging, just shaking down the seeds into like a sack, a hessian sack. Can you do that? Just with
you can try.
Or would the seeds just fall through the weave? Do you need a finer muslin?
I like the idea that you're talking about. You have to go and actively, shake down wattle. Yeah. Not that wattle doesn't come to you.
No.
If wattle is in the vicinity of where you are, it's coming. But I like the idea now. Again, muslin, maybe probably muslin over hessian. Hessian's probably got too many gaps in the fibre.
Yeah, it's too what's it called? Coarser weave for the wattle
cheesecloth.
Cheesecloth, yeah, that's muslin.
Exactly. I think the cheesecloth is the right call. So they open with a family-sized open galette. Mm-hmm. 2 indigenous ingredients must be used, and you had 2 hours.
Look, I think the theme of this week, okay, we could argue that it is wishy-washy, but it's actually not. I think just having a homegrown week, and that's a title you give to make sure that indigenous ingredients are being used. And we learnt some new ingredients tonight. Like we're all over the Davidson plum.
Yeah, we'll come to them in a minute.
Big Davidson plum are in the shed. They migrated from the MasterChef kitchen into the shed. But we had a few more. What's the one? The K. The one starts with K. Not Kwanzaa.
Which is a holiday.
Which is a holiday. Actually, you know what? Australian Bakeoff, don't do a Christmas special. Do a Kwanzaa special. Like, just pick another holiday.
Kunzia.
Kunzia. It's like Kwanzaa, but
not.
Kunzia.
It's like Kwanzaa, but not.
It's more...
Which is exactly what their advertising slogan needs to be. Kunzia. It's like Kwanzaa, but not. Yeah, so Carmel puts it out there and goes, these aren't necessarily ingredients you normally use, which is true.
Yeah.
But as we did point out, the first thing, we're there, and obviously the drinking game card had lemon myrtle on it, because of course Maggie beer is there. Of course there's lemon myrtle, although as we would find out a bit later, that's not always successful for dear Maggie. But what we did find out was that the Davidson Plum Brigade, Big Davidson
in the shed.
Infiltration.
COVID didn't stop them in their march across Australia.
One of the few industries that gathered steam during the COVID lockdown, the Davidson plum industry.
Like if you could go back to 2019 and tell yourself what to invest in, it would be hand sanitizer, gloves, masks, and Davidson plum.
I think again, so it was all over MasterChef last season. This year, it's all over this episode. Not just obviously in the fact that Aaron seems to very much enjoy using it, but we get to the technical, and it's
all Davidson.
It's the technical. All Davidson plum. Or it's like a radio station in like Wangaratta.
Yes.
All Davidson plum. All day. So
greatest hits of the stone fruits.
This is us living out one of our reviews online, by the way. I don't know if you've ever seen that review. My favourite review of this podcast.
Is it our only review? It has to be our only review.
No, there's a couple of reviews out there, but my favourite review of this podcast is a 1-star review that says, "Great if you like breakfast radio."
Well, look, in the day I used to like breakfast radio. Now I have podcasts, but
Yeah, and so what we're doing there with that All Davidson Plum all day is we are living out our breakfast radio,
fantasies.
Like
it's
this
is me as Wendy Harmer, you as
aggro.
That's breakfast television.
No, they did radio too.
Did they?
The morning crew.
I was thinking of Paul McDermott. What's his facey?
Peter Moon.
No, Andrew bloody what's his facey?
Andrew bloody what's his facey?
The one that I went to do
that's Kevin bloody Wilson's cousin. Andrew bloody what's his facey?
The one who went on to do Enough Fruit with Andrew Denton. Andrew Denton.
Denton wasn't on with Wendy Harrow. They're opposite stations. I used to listen to Denton.
Really?
I used to listen to Denton.
I thought they were on the same show.
No. Denton,
I thought
Denton was Triple M.
Yeah.
Denton with Amanda Keller.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was listening to Triple J at that time.
And the morning crew was Peter Moon, Wendy Harmer, and Aggro.
Oh, and that's who did the whole Bloom and what's it called? You know, the man versus woman thing. The
Battle of the Sexes.
Jesus Christ.
How can you forget a radio staple? Battle of the Sexes. So
here comes the secret sound, folks. What's this? Yep, that's right.
It's one hand. Anyway, so Jaywin, not connected to breakfast radio in any way, shape, or form. We suddenly get us again. Speaking of things that infiltrated from MasterChef, Jaywin produces a smoke gun.
He's got it from home.
Here's one he prepared earlier, and I love the reaction from Karma, where she's like, I don't know, last week jury, and this week you're smoking us all out.
Do you think he does a bit of dirty Harry work, like just like, this kitchen's not big enough for the two of us.
This shed's not big enough for the two of us at all. So he was smoking the cheddar cheese with Tasmanian wood for the pastry. I wonder if he got the wood from Nerman.
Yeah.
I need to ask that one. Now, lemon myrtle, kangaroo, saltbush, and bush tomato.
I was really excited to see this. I think Jaywin, like last week when we saw Nostalgia Week, when we saw him bring all these flavours from his, from his childhood into the shed. Again, he's bringing all these flavours that, he's done his research. He's going, okay, the bush tomato will work well with this, will work well with that, and I'm going to throw some saltbush on there too. Thank goodness, because that had to cover a little accident.
And then he's going to serve it on paper bark. Yep. And I loved the whole Claire going, but won't that burn? And they're like, no, we wet it and it won't burn. And they're like, and then Maggie's like, you're going to serve it on the paper bark, aren't you? We're like, yes.
So when he had to write down his list of stuff, was that his paperback writer?
Oh.
Paperback writer, sorry.
Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba.
Yes.
Yeah, you should be careful for that one.
I should be.
So Carmel, she went with pears, macadamia, strawberry gum, and a short crust. Now, strawberry gum made a bit of an appearance in this episode too.
I've never heard of it.
Neither have I. It looked really cool.
Yeah. So let me Google what it is while you talk about it.
While I talk about it. So Carmel was in the shape, she made it in the shape of a pear too. And she talked about the idea of it being, it could go well or it could go pear-shaped as a bit of a joke. But if it went well, it would be pear-shaped. So what she should have said, and you pointed this out while we were watching it, is it could go badly.
Or it could go pear-shaped.
So again, you missed a chance there, Carmel.
Come on.
Twist it around faster.
Mel and Claire were there. They should have gone, nope. Let's take that back.
Redo that one.
Again,
I like this idea that we're just going, there's no other pressure on you. You're not worried about anything else. You're not baking or anything. Your one-liners should be snappier and wittier. I think that's critical. How are we going with the looking it up?
All right. So I've got here from the bushfoodshop.com.au. Strawberry gum, Eucalyptus olida, also known as a strawberry gum, is a medium-sized tree to 20 metres, because, in Australia, that's a medium-sized tree. Endemic to the northern tablelands of New South Wales, but cultivated in regions further south. Flowers are cream-coloured and are followed by small woody capsules. Aren't they called gum nuts?
Yeah, pretty much.
The glossy green leaves are intensely aromatic, so strawberry gum is used to enhance the flavour of cooked fruit dishes, desserts, or spice jams. Bring out the classic berry flavour. Used also in herbal teas and carbonated beverages. So I presume it's the leaves.
Pretty much.
And the oil. Okay, cool.
Okay, so Aaron.
The nuts.
So Aaron.
Yes.
Now Aaron went with the Davidson plum jam. And this is where we got the conversation about, well, what is Davidson plum, Maggie? What's the difference between plum and Davidson plum? And she's like, oh, well, one is far more tart than the other one.
Now, which one would that be, Maggie?
Davidson plum.
Of course. Let's do the Davidson plum face.
Yeah, and that was later on, later on in the technical, where Aaron's like, there are some foods that make you go, does the face, and goes, this one's really one that makes you go and does the face.
Yes. It's like a little kind of wincing cat bum. It's like,
you don't have cats on the brain at all.
No.
He's not in the background howling right now.
No.
So Aaron was going with blackberry and plum, and then a lemon myrtle pastry. Mm-hmm. So he knows the way to Maggie's heart.
Yeah.
And this is obviously later on going to be balanced up in this bake by Ella, who knows the way to scare Maggie. So, but we'll get to that in a minute because we've got to go to Hayden. Yes. Now, Hayden. So, he made his seafood galette.
Yep.
Now, what I love...
Dedicated to the Wongal people.
Yeah, the Wongal people, who are, again, one of 29 tribes of the Eora Nation.
Yep.
And the seafood galette idea, fine. Cool. You love seafood. You love oysters.
Yep.
And it was mussels and oysters.
Oh, yeah.
Now, and
You know what's really good? Fresh mussels, out of the shell, of course, wrapped in bacon on the barbecue. Fucking beautiful. Can highly recommend that, folks.
And then he talked about bush docker on top of it. And then he turns around, he's like, Maggie's like, so normally you wouldn't cook the oysters.
Yep.
You'd cook everything else and then you'd put the oysters on top. And Hayden's like, well, first of all, I don't really like raw seafood. And secondly, I don't really like raw oysters. I like cooking my seafood. At which point, I've never heard Maggie with sort of a laughing disdain.
It's like, oh, you just...
She goes, okay, it's your bake.
Has she never had oysters kill Patrick? Like, surely. I mean, that's a cooked oyster.
Maggie Beer, if you're listening, and we know you are.
Yeah, because what else do you do?
What else do you do?
While
You don't do
you're
anything
weeding
else.
the verjuice fields.
Yeah, look, I believe while she is out harvesting the verjuice fields.
Paddleboarding on the Verjuice River.
AirPods.
AirPods, yep.
Nothing but us. We are the choice of the verjuice fields.
We just pumped through the speaker system in
all the drone workers.
Lithium
All the drone workers in State Lithium Manor.
Yeah. It's how she keeps the dragon who's protecting the
Butterhoard?
Yeah, just asleep.
We put the dragon and the butterhoard to sleep. Look, everyone serves a purpose in life. Ours is protecting the butterhoard. Anyway, Maggie, if you're listening,
you wouldn't want a dragon. You'd want an ice dragon near your butterhoard because a fire dragon is just going to melt it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Obviously, it's an ice dragon. There we go. Cleared that up, folks.
Depends on what time of year, because you want to keep it temperate. You don't want to freeze your butter.
She has what's it called? Shift work dragons.
Shift work dragons.
Seasonal dragons. What is it? Hot dragon season, cold dragon season.
Exactly.
There's a big ceremony of the changing of the dragons. It's like at Buckingham Palace, but more spectacular because there's fucking dragons.
Exactly.
Instead of men in fluffy hats.
There's little dragons leading the big one into the butterhoard.
But they are all wearing fluffy hats.
Of course they are, because, Maggie. Yeah. Anyway, Maggie, if you are listening, we know you are, because we're not up to the seasonal changing of the butterhoard yet. We're close, but not quite there. This is more of a late April thing.
Yeah.
But Maggie, if you are listening, Oysters Kill Patrick.
Yes.
Have you not? I mean, just have you not? Answer Kristie. She's worried about
I'd
this.
just like to know.
Now, obviously we then go to
March
Hoda.
21st is when the dragon
Oh,
changes.
that's the start. That's right. It's a month-long procession.
It's an equinox thing,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's a full month-long procession.
So we're coming up to this festival of the
Can't wait.
the
Look,
dragons.
Look, nothing is finer than watching the verjuice fields as they light up.
First it's frozen, then it's melted.
Exactly. Hoda. So Hoda went with Kwandong for those playing the drinking game. Pink Lady
As
Apples.
my mum would call it, condom.
And a sandalwood nut frangipane. Now,
This is cool.
I thought, when I heard that description, I thought that was a candle.
Look, either or. Do you want your bake to smell like a candle or your candle to smell like a bake? Either way,
you're winning.
Whack a wick in it. Put a wick in that galette.
No. Put a wick. No, from here on in. Whack a wick in it.
Whack a wick in it.
Can you make it? Can it candle?
Can it candle?
Like, stay tuned for our new podcast. Can it candle? What do? Whack a wick in it. So, what are we testing out this week? It's a door, and how are we going to find out? Whack a wick in it. No candle. Anyway,
what have you got there, Kristie? Oh, some gelignite.
What are we going to do? Whack a wick in it. No candle or big candle.
That's an ouchie candle.
Ouchie candle.
It's a bitey candle.
It's going to be great. What a podcast.
Gonna go off.
What a podcast that's going to be. 5 bangs. Anyway,
we need to keep on track.
No, we don't.
Okay.
So Nerman.
Yes.
I heard it with the Kwandong, Pink Lady Apple, Sandalwood, Nut Frangipane. And look, as Maggie said, she's never tasted it before.
No, either have I. I thought you could only use the essential oil. I knew it had medicinal and aromatherapy stuff, and it was used, in perfumes and whatever. Did not know you could eat the nut.
Again, the only way you find out if you can eat the nut, whack a wick in it. Moving on. So Nerman. Nerman went with wallaby and goat's cheese. Now, he obviously I didn't mention before, but when Jaywin went with kangaroo, of course, the drinking game did say if it's on the coat of arms, have a drink. So well done, Jaywin, on that. Now, this is not on the coat of arms. This is more on the rugby field, and is usually disappointing and therefore worthy of being eaten. But Wallaby and goat's cheese. The goats are making out better.
They are.
You know, the goats live to fight another day, whereas the wallaby... Now, Matt really went to great pains to point out that there was absolutely no fat content. And so Matt and Maggie were like, you got to watch out, it doesn't go dry. Got to watch out, it doesn't go dry.
It's like, sorry if our native wildlife don't have enough, like, lard on their bones. Like,
Yes.
Just...
Exactly. Ella.
Yes.
Now, we have differing views on this. You have a perspective on this that
Yes,
I
I do.
don't have. The Aussie in America.
Yep.
Now, wattle seed pastry, pecan and macadamia filling. Now, we'll talk about the Maggie aspect of this in a moment.
Yep.
I feel like this bake from Ella
Yeah.
was because she wanted to make a pecan pie and didn't really have much to do with the concept of what was going on, and it was a fairly tenuous link.
No.
Go for it.
Okay. When you're overseas, okay, when you've travelled the world like I have once, to very specific countries, you can fall into the trap of feeling more Australian because you're in, like, particularly in, like, English-speaking countries, because there's so much familiarity, yet you still don't feel a part of it. Like, being in England, I was there during the World Cup in 1996.
Yep.
And, like, there are people from all over the world with their flags and stuff. And, like, Australia, you know, we were, this is before our days of, you know, actually being in the World Cup.
Yes.
You know, we felt like we had to get a flag and we became extra Australian. Like, I think that is something you can feel when you're overseas. And I understand where Ella's coming from, you know, like, you know, she's from a Jewish background. There's large Jewish communities in New York, but they'd be very different to the communities here in Australia. Like, there'd be so many similarities, but yet still different. You're like an alien in a familiar yet alien world. It's just...
Are you talking about every book written in the late 1990s?
Yeah, actually, you know, just to...
Feeling like an alien in a dystopian world that she doesn't quite understand.
You know, like, I don't think you understand. Like, Ella's probably wandering around New York and, you know, consoling her homesickness and feeling, you know, both apart and yet separate in this world by eating a pecan pie and just wishing there was some macadamias in it. And here we are, you know, 10 years later, she's in the Australian Bakeoff shed and she's finally able to, you know, get some closure on that whole feeling. And I'm sure that will be a great book you write, Ella.
The maple leaf design was a bit bizarre. Anyway, moving on.
No, it wasn't. What was she supposed to do? Make a bald eagle?
What she was probably supposed to do was not make a pecan pie because
Why?
Maggie Beer hates pecans. Now,
Yeah, but
what
she made a spot with all macadamia. She's like, this is your bit, Maggie.
That's a spot.
Yeah.
What I would call that is an unbalanced bake. Anyway, so
No. How much of each bake does Maggie eat? She eats a bite, you know, unless it's really fucking
she made a spot in the middle. It's like saying that you
It was at the base of the leaf. She's going to get some extra galette there.
That's like saying you're a vegetarian and you only eat vegetarian pizza. So you put a meat lover's pizza and you do the centre bit with vegetables only.
Yeah, well, if it's got no meat on it, it's vegetarian.
How do you cut your pizza?
I don't know. This is not me. I will eat a meat lover's pizza if I absolutely have to. Not because I'm vegetarian, just because I think that pizza should have, like, a bit of balance to it, just not all... Like...
Anyway, let's go back far more importantly to the Maggie and pecans thing.
Okay,
so
okay.
What I'm actually really worried about, again, and I've mentioned this a few times when we spoke to Blessing, and thank you for the feedback on the Blessing episode, we mentioned this. Did nobody, like, pay attention on the way in to chili?
Yep.
Pecans, and last week there was bubblegum as well. Did nobody pay attention to the three women, men, they, them of the apocalypse in Bakeoff for Maggie?
I feel
I want a chili bubblegum pecan. I want it. I want a terrine. A chili bubblegum pecan terrine.
With a rosewater dressing.
Oh, with an overdone rosewater glaze.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I feel like some people see that. Okay, so you can either go one way. One, you don't know about it. You just do it because that's your jam. The other way, you kind of like, I'm going to make this my rosewater. I'm going to be one of those people that come in with something that this person does not like, and I'm going to make them like it.
So you're going to barb it.
You're going to barb it.
which is what Barb did, of course, when
With
she
the
went with
rose water,
pecans.
yeah. Oh, that's
pecans.
right. The pecans. That's right. When she made the pecan bridge.
Then she made the pecan bridge, and the response was, you know what?
Like
I actually like this. Now, Hayden at this point goes, I feel like I'm a mile behind. And the answer, unfortunately, Hayden, is yes. A mile behind, possibly even underestimated how far behind you were at this point. Because everyone else was sort of getting bakes in, and you still didn't have yours in the oven. And, like, Mel was doing the whole jokey tapping the watch thing.
Yeah.
But, like, in all honesty, that pastry was never going to cook.
I just like to think that Hayden, you know, between COVID and being made redundant from work and stuff, he's just got no concept of time. It's just a blur. Just like, why? You don't have to go. You got kids, but they can be fed it at any point during the 24 hours.
Time is a foreign concept, yeah.
You know?
And
routine.
And then they cut to Ella, and Ella was asking Mel for the advice on how long her galette should be in the oven.
Mel just laughs.
And then Mel just looks at her like, I'm in here, but, like, you think?
Yeah.
Really? And then Ella, when she took it out, she's like, I'm a bit worried that I've simultaneously managed to burn it and not brown it all in once. She's like, I don't know how I've done that, but that's incredible.
Yeah, but if you even it out, it's perfectly baked.
Then came one of the moments of the evening for me. Jaywin picks up his galette and decides he wants to check and he's looking under it. And as he picks it up to look under it, in my head I'm going, this can't end well.
Oh.
And at this point is the first time I think look, it's a world first. It's the first time that anyone has dropped a galette on their own face on television.
You know, if this happened back in the 90s, I'm sure you could submit it to, like, you know, Funniest Home Videos.
Oh, here's the galette. But, like, a second he picked it up and looked under it, I'm like, Jaywin, don't.
Because it wasn't fully centered on the tray or the rack either.
It was leaning off to the side.
Like, that's... Oh, it was heartbreaking, but simultaneously, like, why?
And what made it even worse was...
When?
And what made it even worse was after he dropped it on his own face, when they then judged it, sure enough, the middle wasn't cooked. So, it's a double whammy. So let's get to the judging.
But, you know, he got some tips on how to cover it up and style it.
So Maggie gave him some tips by grabbing the greenery from the side and placing it on top.
Yeah, everything, you know, much like the bacon is the universal cover-up. If you just throw bacon in it, throw salt bush at it. You know, that's an alternative.
So, Jaywin.
A vegan alternative, if
So
you will.
apart from the finishing off with the greenery, the pastry was crunchy on the outside, but as you got into the middle, it was a bit more raw. Hoda, they said it looked fantastic and the pastry looked nice and flaky and that Maggie really loved the sandalwood and the flavours were quite good.
Yes.
Look, I thought, and we'll get to it towards the end as well, but I thought last week I was a bit critical of Hoda's week. She had a good week this week. Like, she had a very good week this week. It was a big bounce back, and we'll get to her showstopper, which I thought was fantastic, the Turtles.
Yeah.
But the look of this galette, it looked bang on. Yeah. So, caramel. Now, they said crunchy, and the flavour was good, but the pastry wasn't as flaky as expected. And it was at this point that I had to go back and check my notes.
Because you're wondering if one of the things was the...
Flaky pastry.
Flaky pastry.
And there was no condition that said flaky pastry. So, like, that's a preference thing, which is fine, but it wasn't in the description of they must be flaky. The galette must be flaky. And I've seen galettes that are flaky, and I've seen galettes that are not. So, it's not a requirement.
Yeah.
So, caramels wasn't flaky as expected, but they said it was good. So that's the weird thing. They're like, the pastry's good, but I wanted flaky. At this point, I would have like gone into like a handbag and produced a flake and just crumbled it over and goes, there's your flaky.
Get some salt on top.
Oh no, we'll come back to the salt. So, Hayden, the flavour of the seafood was great. So let's start with that.
Tick.
The pastry was raw.
Oh,
and I like the way they said raw on the bottom, like there was a top. No, it was raw.
Oh, it's a yeah.
And what I love is Hayden just looked at them and smiled and went, like, it's only one of the two components, it's fine. Ella, they said it looked great and it had an excellent crunch to it. And the coffee tone was very clear through it. And Maggie actually gave positive comments on pecans.
There you go.
And then we said, one of the things we have said a few times is that Maggie, while she doesn't like things, can still judge them critically and go,
Like,
yep.
that's a superpower. Because
It
if you got
is.
me to have to judge peas, you'd just be
Why?
negative,
Why is your answer?
negative 100.
Well,
You're
yeah,
out.
if you were asked to judge peas,
Sashay away.
you'd tell them they have no future.
Yeah.
They're not wanted by anybody.
And I'd feed them to my dragon
You would.
if I was Maggie B.
Summer or winter dragon though.
Oh, look. who
Winter
is
dragon for snap peas.
it? Yeah. It depends on the time of year, you know.
So
Who's in the horde this year or this time?
Nerman. Now, this was an interesting bit of feedback. They said that he could have gone more on the pastry, but that would have ruined the filling.
Yeah.
So what did you want him to do? Did you want him to overdo the pastry, or underdo the pastry and the filling was great, or did you want him to overdo the filling but the pastry was great?
It's almost like with galettes, like you do with the pies. Like you have to blind bake to get.
The level they wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. They said it was just under on the pastry, but the flavour of the wallaby was outstanding. And at no point did they comment that it was dry. So well balanced. And then Aaron. So they said it looked excellent and the pastry was very flaky. They said that the taste was really tart and Maggie was so excited that we got the one hand conducting.
Oh, yes.
Now, Matt also loved the kick of the plum. So that's a kick of the plum, not a kick in the plums. No one likes a kick. Oh, actually, some people do. But that's each to their own.
Yeah. No shame here, no judgment.
No, exactly. Let 1,000 blossoms bloom. So I did point out they didn't ask for flaky in the brief, but Aaron was talking about the fabled nudge and said there's tale of the fabled nudge.
There is tale of the fabled nudge. I'm sure many tales told on this podcast of the nudge.
Yep. So that was the first challenge, and again, I thought it was a good challenge.
Yeah.
I liked the fact that they made them use 2 ingredients. I thought that was really that really was a good idea.
And look, it's deceptively simple talking about a galette because it's a pastry with stuff on top.
Yeah.
But again, like your pies, like your tarts and stuff, your baking time, the way that you've made the pastry and stuff does come into place. So there is skill there. While we did focus on a lot of the ingredients, it was also looking at how that pastry was going to hold those ingredients. And as we saw with Nerman's, do you favour the wallaby over the pastry? Like the filling over the pastry in terms of the cooking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the technical. Now this technical was a Maggie beer.
Yes.
It was a Maggie beer.
Yes.
Now, first of all, I did love the joke about going off to do the bush survival course. So we may see them or we may not. I loved that.
Gearing Matt up for I'm a celebrity, get me out of here.
Getting him ready. Mel's giving him some tips. Not direction, but other tips. Now, then they listed what it was, and they said it was a macadamia, aniseed, myrtle, and bush honey trifle. Mm-hmm. And you had 2 hours. Now, it's not a trifle. It's a slice.
Look, when you think trifle, it's got to be in a container, and you have to slop it out. Like, you don't actually get a neat slice of trifle. If you do, you're really just cutting up some bold pudding or something. This was a slice. It was all neat. It was all stuck together, but it did have the layers that were a trifle. So much like a cronut, it is a sliceal.
It's a sliceal. It's 100% a sliceal.
Yeah.
And I love the idea. I think it's a genius concept.
Yeah.
It looked really cool. But Maggie, please don't try to tell us it's a trifle. We've seen a trifle in there. Chris has made a trifle in there. It was the size of a small human.
I've cried because I broke my mother's trifle bowl.
Exactly. You know a
I
trifle.
know a trifle.
We have, by the way, just for anyone listening who remembers that Chris trifle, which was an epic. And again,
Oh my god! Two hosts, 2 spoons.
We have seen the trifle bowl in person.
It is. You could fit a toddler in it.
You could quite. We had a toddler nearby, but the bowl was actually full of fruit.
Oranges. Yeah.
Yeah, but we could have actually.
And there was too many sweets around to convince the children to eat the oranges so that we could try the toddler, and we didn't want to waste the fruit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So again, now we're cool with the idea that it's not a trifle.
All right. So I'm thinking, okay, if we ever get to go to a grand final and that trifle bowl is out, what we do is we grab all the fruit out of it. and we swapped the donuts that were nailed to the board with the fruit. So the kids are eating nailed fruit.
Nailed on oranges.
Yeah. And then they go, oh, I don't want to do that. But then they see the donut.
And they dive into the bowl. And then we can get a photo and show everyone for contrast. Yep, perfect. Fantastic. All right. So, Hoda announces very loudly that she doesn't like trifle.
What do you like, Hoda?
Yeah, look, this is a genuine question because there's been a few of these so far where you've gone, I don't really like this. I don't really like this. What bakes do you like?
Because, like, it just worries me because, like...
Are you in the right place? Did you mean to go on Bakeoff? Yeah. This is an accident.
We've seen it before, and you can bake with negative emotions. We've seen someone make macaroons out of spite.
We have. Karen
from Canadian.
Karen on Canadian admitted that she started making macarons because she was just so annoyed by them that she had to make them.
So, you know, whatever your motivation is. But, you know, we're hoping to see a bit of joy.
Yeah.
At times.
It would be nice.
Yeah.
So this is where we then go down until... So they start talking about the instructions, and Hayden's complaining about the fact that it's on two sides of the instructions, and that makes it difficult, and there's 5 steps. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's normal. Ella then turns around and goes, toast the macadamias until golden. How long do we put them in for? Now, Ella, there are parts of the recipe usually that are... We don't know how long you bake it for. This one's a pretty easy one.
And it's pretty standard for a recipe anyway.
So,
it's like toast this till golden.
Toast till golden. How long do you put it in for? Once it's golden. Once it's golden.
Golden, it's good.
Take it out.
Yeah.
So this was the one time where it didn't matter
brown,
about...
not so good.
Yeah. You know, black, probably not. Probably restart at that point.
Yeah.
But,
or stick a wick in it.
Put a wick in it, exactly.
Put a wick in it.
Stick a wick in it.
Whack a wick in it.
Whack a wick in it. We got to get our own catchphrase right. Whack a wick in it. Before this podcast launches, we need to get some shirts made with this on it. Whack a wick in it. So...
It sounds like a camp that you go to in the United States.
Welcome to Camp Whack a Wick in It. We teach baking here.
And candle making. Sometimes both.
Depends on what it is. Yeah. Whack a wick in it to find out. So... Hayden then complains that he had a soggy bottom earlier, but he's hoping to go from soggy to toit.
Toit.
Now,
toit.
This just reminded me of
Toit
Robert.
Nups. Oh, yes.
This was just Robert.
It was very Robert, and that's lovely. You know, to be compared to friend of the show.
Friend of the show, Robin. By the way, Robert, see, haven't forgotten you, getting your mentions in on the podcast. Yeah. So... I'm laughing about this because the next thing that happens was that everyone runs around the shed and starts getting help again.
Look, I'm starting to come around. To the whole...
It's enough. Please stop.
Maybe we do need to just set a boundary and tighten that... Just
Toiten it up.
Toiten the boundary. Toiten it up. Toiten the technical. Let's
toiten the technical. Can we toiten the technical a little bit, please? As we get closer to the grand final.
Toiten it up.
Look, it's lovely that everyone loves each other and wants to help, but can we toiten the technical before the grand final? That would be fantastic, because it's really bloody annoying at the moment. And, like, everyone was in on it. Nerman was in on it this week. He's like, what do you reckon about this? Is this right? I'm like, Nerman, no! Get back to your bench!
Yes, just maybe you get... 2 questions you can ask, you know, like kind of like.
So I've got a student. I'm not going to name him, obviously, but I've got a student who asks a lot of questions, not being serious, being silly.
Okay.
And is all over the place when he asks his questions, and he does it deliberately because he loves hearing his own voice. And so myself and one of the other teachers have set a rule in both of our classes. Well, there's 3 rules. The first rule is it a yes/no? The second rule is, does it actually relate to the topic we're talking about? The third thing is, if you run it through your filter before you speak, does it sound stupid? If you pass those 3 tests, you can ask your question.
Do you think you should have just given him the Dwight Schrute rule, which is, I ask myself, would an idiot do this?
And if I say yes, I do the opposite. He'd probably go with it. Anyway,
okay.
So then we get Claire goes over to Carmel's bench. Now, Carmel obviously didn't seek extra assistance. And how do we know this? She didn't put any salt on the macadamias. Now, at this point, she's like, oh, well, Maggie noticed this.
And Claire's like, she's noticing right now. She can sense enough, the salt levels
from the other side of the shed. And sure enough, and it came up a few times, Maggie can sense no salt.
It's like, if the salt is out of balance, you get a salty Maggie. Like,
Yeah, don't want a salty Maggie.
No.
No one needs a salty Maggie in their life.
Under
Especially...
salt, salty Maggie.
Especially...
Oversalt, salty Maggie.
Especially not in changeover season.
Oh, no. We're a month off. We're a month off changeover.
Exactly.
We're heading towards the equinox when the fire dragon, glides past as a fly over the beautiful verjuice fields, setting fire to the crops that have been harvested throughout the year. And then the ice dragon,
comes and cools it all down, stops the fire.
Freezes the verjuice fields.
Sunrise, sunset.
Exactly. And it's quite magnificent.
It's a spectacle. It's a spectacle. Yeah. Then we got the debut. Why did I say debut? It's debut. Debut sounds like a car brand. Anyway,
no. Don't you remember, like, growing up, okay, so it's a debut. You got to debut yourself. Yes. But always growing up, my mum would mention the debut.
Yeah, because you want to sound French.
You're going to go to the debut. You're going to do your debut, Kristie. And it sounds like it's supposed to be posh. Like it's a fucking piece of sexist shit. But it just sounds like you're going to do debut. Like, it just sounds really shit.
You get back to scatological again.
Yeah.
So...
Sorry.
At this point in time, we had the launch.
But
we had the launch.
You didn't have that growing up because you're a boy. You didn't have your mum going... we're going to do your debut, and,
I would have been put back in. I wasn't ready. So, anyway, we had the launch. The season launch. It's actually more appropriate. Of a new show.
Like, I think Mum wanted me to carry an umbrella. Like the fancy parasols. Like, fuck that. And then not only are you getting hit with taboo talk at the age of, like, fucking 10 when you're still dealing with the fact you're growing boobs, suddenly, like, old-fashioned aunties are giving you things for your friggin', what's it called? Something chest. Like this bloody thing that's supposed to be the things that you get given that you can take when you get married so you can furnish your house.
Now.
So a 10-year-old, and I'm getting fucking champagne glasses. It's like all friggin' placemats. It's like...
Story off the back of that.
Yes.
So...
Sorry.
Look, you're on a rant. I'm trying to talk about the debut of a brand new show, but we'll come to that in a moment because I now have a story to talk off the back of that.
Okay.
So, you were talking about the chest, obviously, and I took a excursion once into Miscellaneous City to go and do some research for assignments and show them how to research properly at the University of Miscellaneous City. Mm-hmm. And then at the State Library.
Hope chest.
Yep.
Fucking hope
and
chest.
And then at the State Library of Miscellaneous City. Very important. And so while we're walking through there, one of the students was very sheltered. We walked past a storefront of an adult shop.
Okay. Yep.
And she looks at it and looks at the sign and goes, "I don't have one of those." And I went, "What?" And she goes, "A pleasure chest." And I'm like, "No, you meant hope chest." And there was just this look.
That would be a cool thing.
We kept walking very quickly. She's like, "What is it?" I went, No. We're walking.
But if you want to be a sex-positive family, could you then start... No, it's inappropriate.
No, it's very inappropriate.
When they turn 18.
Yes.
Then you can...
It's a bit late to start at that point. Anyway, launching the show. This is the longest launch break in history.
Okay.
Nerman.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
Launching their brand new hit mini-series.
Pleasure chest.
No. How gold is your sponge?
It's like, how green is your...
Yeah, how green was my valley?
How green is my
or
valley?
the parody, how green is my cactus?
Yes.
Of course, we've now got... Because this came from, of course, where Aaron looked and went, "Nerman, how gold is your sponge?" And I like the idea that they've got like a 5-part mini-series.
Yeah.
Where they can just go around and just... be them. Talk life, the universe, sponges.
I'm okay. I'm picturing it, right? The wilderness in Tasmania, a beautiful, like, eco-friendly shack home, like architecturally designed, but all recycled material. Great big porch.
Kevin McLeod would visit and love it.
Oh, yeah. Massive kitchen,
He'd say eco a lot.
Yes, you go, the eco-design and the sympathy with the natural environment and, rising up as part of this.
It only cost $500 million.
And the budget was
$75.
$475 million. But
No, $75.
$75 have gone way over.
They slightly went over, but the effect is extraordinary. Anyway.
They have, both a European herb garden and natural, an indigenous plants and all this kind of stuff. And it's just, they've both got a rocking chair and they sit there and talk about their bakes and then they go and bake them and then they come out and eat their bakes and...
Oh, it's fantastic. What a show.
And they go, how golden is your bake?
Yes, how golden is your sponge? Then we got to the cutting and the most fun of the cutting of this was, of course, Jaywin, who they cut to as he was trimming the outside of it and eating the offcuts in a way that was very reminiscent of... You remember in The Simpsons when Bart, they turn the light on Bart and it looks like he's a rat?
Yes. I'm also thinking of Angela in The Office where she's saying, people say that she eats a chipmunk or whatever.
And she's he's gnawing away and he looks at the camera and just goes, nutty. And so we made the aniseed myrtle custard and then the bush honey cream. Now, Hayden went with a completely different technique to everybody. He's so they're all just putting it here. But I, as a scientist, know that what you really need to do is you get the water over here and you put the water bath, and the water bath will cool it to this temperature because the induction forces, and everyone's it's great, Hayden, it's a fridge.
But it's true, though. If you're going to use ice, it's the esky principle. An esky that's slightly melted, going to keep your tinnies cooler than just ice.
And the other important point was then that Hoda came over and went, so what temperature should it be at, Hayden? And rather than get a simple answer, Hayden broke out mathematical equations. And you can just see, she's like, what would I do without you? But in her head, she's like, I just want a number.
Like a beautiful mind.
A number would do me. So...
Do you reckon that's why they had to have the shed doors open? Because when they weren't looking, I know it's COVID, but Hayden would just whip out the marker and just start doing equations on the shed wall.
That's terrifying. Then we get the Davidson... So obviously we got the Davidson Plum level, which became also far more less important about Davidson Plum, far more important about gelatin.
Yes.
So gelatin suddenly appears.
And then I was like, okay, here's another moment when we're asking someone whose culture asks them not to use pork products. And
hopefully they use beef. Because you can beef gelatin.
You get beef gelatin?
Yeah. Okay. I hope it was beef gelatin. But, we talked about that last week.
That's true, yeah.
We talked about that last week. And obviously we asked, we talked about that with Nab as well, as people will get to hear once that comes out. And, he even, was talking about the idea that, you've got Ella as well. That's a thing. So... hopefully it was beef gelatin. Because it wasn't agar, we would have known that. Now, Ella and Jaywin both had overset gelatin. I loved Ella. She goes, if I checked the fridge, would it have fixed it up? Possibly, but oh well. Nerman decided to blitz his plums.
Whizzing your plums.
As one is wont to do. Now, again, how do you work out if the jelly layer is overset or edible? Or possibly even, I don't know, a candle layer? It's really simple. Whack a wick in it! So, some of those gelatin layers did look like they possibly could have had a wick in them. Yeah. Again, Ella, Jaywin, looking at yours, a wick possibly would have done them the world of good.
That's really handy, because then you don't have to buy candles for your birthday cake. Your cake is the candle!
Cake is the candle! Whack a wick in it! So... Hayden at this point is complaining about the fact that he can't manage to get it as a flat surface. But it was a flat surface on a flat surface, and he was putting it in a flat surface. How could he not find it level? I don't understand. The bench was flat. It's level. The fridge shelf, flat, level. The tray, flat, level. He put it down, he's like, that's not level. Everyone else's was level. What was wrong with Hayden's bench? Had it sunk?
Okay, is Hayden less a scientist, more a wizard? But not in the kind of Harry Potter wizarding world. I'm thinking more the Terry Pratchett, Unseen University, where it's just chaos. There are dimensions, there's crazy shit going on, and maybe his whole bench just was on its own axis. It was just tilting about.
Possibly. That would actually make a lot more sense in some ways, and for the rest of the week. Then we cut back and Ella gets her jelly out and goes, oh my God, my jelly sucks. Which is a nice thing you want to hear before the... Because, again, she had the bubbles. And we'll talk about what happened with the bubbles in a minute. But again, Ella, if you wanted to salvage the jelly, whack a wick in it. Jaywin had a slight seep as well. Never nice when you've got a slight seep, especially not in the shed on a hot day. No one wants a seep in the shed on a hot day.
No one wants to see your plums seeping.
No one wants seeping plums on a hot day. Or at any day, really, but seeping plums, especially on a hot day,
it also makes it more difficult to whack a wick in it.
Does, indeed. Aaron, they said that the sponge was a little short of equal. By the way, this was Maggie Beer at her most pedantic. Little short of equal, and Matt looks at it and is like, it looks pretty perfect to me, Maggie. They said the glaze was perfect. Each of the layers had a different consistency, but it blended perfectly and just melted together nicely. Ella's, they said, was perfectly even, but there was no plum in the jelly, and the air bubbles gave it away that it hadn't been done properly. Great sponge, good crunch. Jaywin, good colour in the jelly, lacking a bit of volume, however, because that was a bit seeping. Layers needed to cool, and the sponge wasn't spongy. This is Australia's acclaimed chef, Matt Moran. The sponge wasn't spongy. He loves his technical terms, does Matt?
He does. Look, I can just imagine when he's like visiting his various arias and just, seeing what's being produced. He's like, that truffle oil, not quite truffle oily enough.
That's soup, not soupy.
Oh, but that bread, very bready.
Very bready.
Loving it.
It's bready. It's bready for the table.
Yeah.
That bread is bready for the table.
That kale, super kaley. Got it going on.
Oh, it's perfect kale. So, caramel. They said there were 3 layers that were very good. The bottom level, not so much. A bit firmer. It needed to be a bit firmer. And Maggie just looks straight at the bakers and goes, and there's no salt on those macadamias. And you could just see everyone going, how the fuck is she doing this? She's a wizard. Hayden, they said there was a lot of plum and it had a very good shine to it. It had a good consistency and it had the right amount of everything, but his sponge was incredibly dense. Nerman got a bloom on the jelly, and again, they were trying to work out where the Davidson plum had gone. And like Nerman later on when he goes, you were talking about consistency is key. And I'm like, get the blender out, whiz it up. So they did say that the flavours were excellent and the sponge was great. Hoda had good jelly, but it wasn't as clear. The sponge was very lopsided, but very good. Because if you look, there was one side really high, and the other was wafer thin. They said the honey cream was very firm as well. Now, at the end of this challenge, we then had Jaywin in 7th. We had Nerman in 6th. We had Hoda in 5th. We had Ella in 4th. We had Hayden in 3rd. We had Carmel in 2nd, without a salt, might I add, and Aaron 1st. And at this point, it felt to me like Aaron was lapping the field. Not that anyone else was having a bad week. They were having good weeks. Aaron was just on another plane at this point in time.
Yeah, he was in the zone. He was, killing it. And I'm sure you can hear Tantor in the background. He's got a lot to say.
He does. He's got some judgment.
Very happy with the technical outcome.
Very happy for Aaron. Now, this brings us, of course, to everybody's favourite podcast segment. Yeah. What's up, Carmel? So, Carmel. So, first of all, I asked the question last week because she talked about Nerman being the naughty little boy. Yes. And I asked who was more of a naughty little boy and who was a worse behaved child and a better behaved child. Coco, Ponchi, Nerman.
Yeah.
And the answer was all 3 are different. Nerman was always happy, playful, and very caring. Coco is well-behaved, affectionate, and she never poops inside or chews cables. Notice she didn't say that about Nerman. Ponchi, on the other hand, always hiding, poops everywhere, runs amok, jumps in all my pot plants. Ponchi is the devil child, Coco is the well-behaved middle child, and Nerman is the son every mum would be honoured to have.
Oh, except for his pooping.
Except for his pooping and chewing on cables, which is a massive issue, and Nerman said, doctor. Anyway,
look, just when he comes to your house, offer him an incontinence pad and maybe
a cable.
Gaff down all your cables.
Yeah, offer him a HDMI you're not using. Anyway, my question this week though, Carmel, because she did say somebody forgot the salt. Do you think that Coco and Ponchi snuck in,
stole your salt,
and tried to sabotage it to send you home? Because I think they might have. Yeah. So, was it Coco and Ponchi? Now, you'll only know this, obviously, from after you were at home. So, series ends, everyone goes home. Did you go home and there was, like, this pile of salt? And, like, they were just there going, we tried. We really tried.
I also want to know, because I saw them, like, because we were buying stuff for our new kitty. And, like, when I was looking up, like, the leashes that you could walk your cats on, I saw one that was like, you can use it for a cat or rabbit, like any small animal. Have you taken your bunnies for a walk?
Do they go for a walk?
Are they digging holes while you go for a walk? Like, did you turn around and suddenly, like, they're halfway tunneling to Western Australia? Because I guess that's the only way you can
get into the border. All right, so there are our questions for What's up, Carmel? We cut to the table. Now, the table's had some very interesting scenes in the last few weeks. We talked a bit about people that haven't been mentioned in the table scenes. We talked a little bit about last week, and the table seemed a bit all over the place. So, a couple of things. First of all, we learnt from the table that Maggie Beer, lover of lemon myrtle, kills lemon myrtle a lot.
Oof. Look, she's obviously very talented in growing verjuice and butter.
And saltbush, apparently.
And saltbush. But lemon myrtle, like, is this a curse? Is this like a leftover curse from some running?
Now, she blamed the climate, but I don't think that's right. We know she's got dragons that can impact the climate when she needs them to.
Exactly. You know, she's Maggie Beer, for God's sakes. Like, is this her Achilles heel?
She needs some weakness.
She does.
Must be lemon myrtle growing.
But do you think she's putting it on? Do you think she's actually really good at growing lemon?
Doesn't anyone know that she is the lemon myrtle industry?
Yes. Just, you know.
No, to be fair,
first the Davidson plum.
To be fair, I've seen Maggie Beer's products. She'd want everyone to know she was the lemon myrtle. Now, what I found really weird about this table was that they get who's had a great week. And there was an answer to this. Look, Hoda had a really good week, so you could have mentioned Hoda. Mm-hmm. But clearly,
Aaron was killing it.
Aaron was the answer to the question.
First in the technical,
and
all
we got was, we've got 7 great bakers, and they're all doing amazingly. They've all got their ups and downs.
Look, I think what's discombobulating here is that this is probably a choice to lead up to the eventual decision that they made at the end, is to keep everyone because Ash has gone home. Yeah. Because we can do that.
And that's fine, by the way.
And that's perfectly fine.
No one has an issue with that.
No, and I think, that's probably the fairest thing you can do at a point like this. And I appreciated it because, we're able to see more of the bakers. It's not like you're cutting the season short, blah, blah, blah. It's still meaningful because we still get a chance to see a star baker.
Yeah.
But it feels, when you're expecting a certain narrative, I guess, as an audience member and not getting that, it feels a little off.
You can still say that people did well.
Absolutely.
Even for them.
Yeah.
Hoda had a really good week and didn't get the kudos at the table that she probably should have gotten.
And I think that's extremely important for her at the moment. And
confidence building. Yeah,
confidence building, because we're coming up to a very crucial turning point for Hoda in the showstopper. So last week we commented that, she did the 3-layered lamington and it looked like a Donna Haybake. It was beautiful, but essentially it was 3 sponges.
4
sponges, sorry. Beautifully presented. But was it complex? Was it complex enough?
Yeah.
This week she's gone, I've never cooked it before. It's really hard. Should I be doing this in a showstopper? And it's like, yes, you should. Growth. And she friggin' nailed it.
That's growth and that's learning.
And that's beautiful. And it would have been a great setup to have her mentioned in that way. And it would have been justice for the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Poor Aaron, who every week has been in the reckoning, but not quite.
Yeah.
To get a bit more kudos there. So, the bread sculpture reflecting the natural world.
Yeah.
2 indigenous ingredients, 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
And Aaron turns around and goes, bread is magical. It never works the same way twice.
Yeah.
Which is true. That's a fair statement.
And I know all through this was basically, for both the signature and the showstopper, all they've put is 2 indigenous ingredients. But that's enough, because they don't say only 2 or give something crazy like 10 indigenous ingredients, because that would just muddle flavours. But it's enough of a jumping point.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay,
so, Hoda. So Hoda went with wattle seed and cocoa and salted macadamias.
Yeah.
And she was making turtles.
Yep, and using the Japanese sweetbread.
Yep.
Recipe.
And I did find it really funny though that in the first challenge, of course, Hoda said, I want to really stress the idea that Australia has more nuts than macadamias. Cut to showstopper macadamias. Nerman, Now, Nerman was using leatherwood, honey, and lemon myrtle to make a blue ringed octopus with kunzia and wattle seed damper. Now, the kunzia.
Yes.
I said we sort of mentioned a little bit about that before. It's a more subtle... We had to look it up. So more subtle tea tree. It's usually, again, topical, used on blemishes and things like that as well. And good for muscle pain, apparently.
I know. I'm there going, I totally need this.
Need a house full of kunzia.
Just a bed of kunzia. Maybe just like the old days, when they used to bring in rushes for the floor. We just make kunzia rushes.
And then at this point, we got Aaron and Nerman again. And Aaron goes, well, Nerman, I too am making a blue ringed octopus.
See, this will bring tension to how golden is your sponge.
How gold is your sponge. I believe this is the first pressure point of the show. Because there was that look, and then Nerman's like, oh.
It almost got Drag Race, like when for Snatch Game, where it's like, I'm doing such and such. Oh, I'm also doing such and such. It's like, oh, we're really going to have 2 Carol Channings in here?
I can't wait for Untucked. Untucked will be amazing. Hayden equated bread to Tai Chi. He's done that before.
Yeah.
So he's got one metaphor up his sleeve on this one, and it's Tai Chi.
I get it. I get it. Bread, it's beautiful.
And Maggie came over. But Maggie came over. I thought Maggie equated it to magic. And the reason I say this is because Maggie came over. Oh, I love being over here, and did like a hand action like she was abracadabbering the bread.
No, but she wanted to touch it because it's at that silky smooth point where it's just finally getting this just gorgeous feel to it.
And if she touches it, they've got to throw it out.
Because COVID.
So, let's talk a bit about Hayden. Cinnamon myrtle, lemon myrtle, and wattle seeds. So the ingredients, great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Everyone else, what are you doing? Oh, I'm doing this. What are you doing? I'm doing this. Hayden, what are you making?
They just start the fucking... Start the fight.
Star Trek fight music.
Yeah.
So, I'm making 3 adult echidnas defending the baby echidna from a goanna. I want more of that story. I want the narrative. I want names.
Because where did this come from? Obviously, he saw this shit somewhere. Is it a YouTube video? Is it something he saw in his adventures out and about?
I hope so.
Is it just what goes down in his part of the world? Like, this
Was
goanna
that
versus echidna gang thing?
Was that what he had a scientific research grant for?
The goanna.
Battling native animals. Native Animal Fight Club. Native Animal Fight Club.
Oh no!
I'm starting to see why university funding didn't exist through COVID.
I'm surprised it would have gone through a fucking ethical committee, let alone...
Oh, have you seen ethics committees? You can get anything through an ethics committee if you try hard enough. Think about it. If you turn around to them and said, hey, ethics committee, I've got a plan. I want to fight native animals at a fight club. I'll give you free tickets.
But we all
They're
know...
there.
But we all know who's going to fucking win, and it's the red kangaroos. Are they, excluded? Are we
You're not allowed.
No,
we're testing the other animals.
We all know.
We know the red kangaroo is going to win.
His thesis.
Duh.
We know who's number 1, but who's number 2?
Yeah, the start of the paper was, we've all got the answer for the winner, but we want to know who the runner-up would be. So here's what we're going to do. The battle for second.
I assume it's land-dwelling, because you put an irukandji in the ring and...
Irukandji beats everything.
Yeah.
So Ella Ella was using seeded sandalwood, quandong, and cranberry damper to make a kookaburra. And I love that she couldn't remember what she was doing to make the wings, not the wings, the flappy bits, the body, the thing with the thing, on the thing with the thing.
It's like Kristie on a podcast.
Completely.
Jeopardy mode.
Absolutely. Then we were interrupted by a dog. Just
Random Afghan in.
And what do you do when a wild dog gets into the Bakeoff shed?
Wild!
It was wild! It's local, there are roaming packs of Afghans, they're blow-dried.
Perfectly coiffed with a collar!
It's that part of Sydney, Kristie, they're all perfectly coiffed. There's salons. In nature, there's Afghan salons. That part of Sydney has gangs of perfectly coiffed Afghans that roam the streets. Beating people up for top quality dog food. Only the best will do. Have you never heard of the roaming Afghans?
Do you think it was coming in to go, listen, Hayden, we heard about your animal fight ring.
We want in.
Yeah, we'll be Indigenous. But you're an imported will
Be Indigenous. And then what do you do when you have a dog that gets into the shed? Dispatch the buttle.
I always thought, when I saw the Doghouse was coming on TV, I always thought Mel Buttle should have been
Completely.
the host for that, because that would have match made in heaven.
She loves dogs, obviously.
Yeah.
A lot of work with the RSPCA.
Do you think it was a Mel Buttle plant where she's just going, look,
Pitch. It's a pitch.
It's a pitch. He's a dog. He's a shed-looking thing.
Now,
he's me.
The problem is for poor Mel is that it ended up being an advertisement as to why she's not hosting the Doghouse. Because she ran away. Did I come on too strong? Yes, Mel. Desperation. Afghans can smell desperation from a mile away, especially the roving gangs of Afghans.
Because, you know, my reference for Afghans is Judy Garland in the Easter Hat Parade, you know, where there's that woman with the two Afghans and she's all dolled up, but she's got these beautiful... So I just assume that everyone who's rich in New York City just has Afghans for every outfit.
Oh, completely.
An Afghan for every occasion.
An Afghan for all occasions. Afghan for all seasons. So, cut to Carmel, who's making a crocodile, cheese and cured meats with bush tomato and pepperberry.
I like
that. And again, they said, are you worried about combining the native ingredients and Italian ingredients? She's like, no, why would I be? And again, I love that Carmel is not here for your shit.
She's like, I'm not getting worried. I've tried this. It's good.
It tastes really good. The flavours go beautifully.
Crocodile. What did she got?
So again, we got spanner crocodile.
Spanakopita, that's it. And I've gone to you, but spanakopita is Greek. And you're like...
But a pun is a pun.
A pun is a pun. And I'm like, okay. It's from the region.
Now, Aaron was doing macadamia and wattle seed rye with, a blue-ringed octopus.
I mean, it's typical, though, you know, the Italians taking all the Greek stuff and renaming it.
All the time.
Similar, but different.
All the time. So, yeah, Aaron...
Aphrodite? No, fuck that. It's Venus now.
So, Aaron did his blue-ring octopus, which was the second one.
Who is this Zeus? Fuck that. That's Saturn. No. Juno? No. Fuck. I'm bad. Okay. Moving right along.
Apollo. Discussion of rye...
Apollo is Apollo. He had the same name.
I know. Anyway. Discussion of rye density happened at this point in time. Matt was trying to make...
By Jove.
Matt was trying to make Aaron doubt his life. So, can I point out, by the way, we were just talking about the fact that poor old Aaron never got his due at the table. Yeah. And meanwhile, I'm talking about Aaron's bacon, you're trying to list the Greek and Roman gods. So,
look, both
poor Aaron!
Equally important. Okay, Aaron. All right, we'll stick to Aaron.
Aaron? What was the Roman god for Aaron?
I would say golden sponge.
Golden sponge. Well done.
I don't know.
So Jaywin was going with saltbush and wattle seed. Saltbush and wattle seed with a strawberry gum again. Now the strawberry gum was appropriate in this one because he was making a waratah.
He was.
That was really cool.
And very clever, like with the plaiting.
The plaiting of the bread. It was very clever.
Loved it.
And I loved... So at this point we cut to Mel and Claire for the second or third time, who are now deep into their Matt and Maggie sculptures.
Now, Maggie was taking shape. The Matt sculpture looked a little...
You go on.
Penisy.
Yeah, it looked penisy. And I love...
feet and very phallic shape. I
loved the Claire comment, the Mel comment of, can someone get me some butter and some Vegemite? I'd like to eat Maggie Bear. And I also love them. They cut back after the next bit when they put them all in the oven. They cut back and Claire's like, 1 hour left, bakers. Looks at the sculptures and goes, I don't know what's taking you all so long, really. Now, at this point, Nerman was getting a bit worried about his blue-ringed octopus. He said he wanted it to make sure that the tentacles looked like tentacles and that he didn't want it to go bulbous like a chonk.
Look, don't chonk shame octopi.
No, but as he said... He's a chonky boy. He goes, that's a good thing. He wasn't chonk shaming. Excellent. He was here for the chonk. He was...
Yeah, look, if you're going to have an octopus, may as well be a chunky octopus.
We have a cat who's a chonk.
Yeah, oh God, he's got some badonkadonk.
There's badonkadonk in the trunk, definitely. When he walks down the stairs, there's badonkadonk in that trunk. Hayden then pulls the bread out and is really worried that he might have underbaked it because I'm not going to put it back in because it might burn. So I think this is going to be it. Now, again, it's bread and Hayden. he didn't have to worry.
No. He was
then-
blessed by Ceres or Demeter, whichever one you
Whichever one it was. Then we got Hoda went to the oven to get hers out, but what was fine. But I want to know, Hoda.
Jupiter! Oh my god! Zeus is Jupiter.
It was easy. You actually said that originally and then went no. So you cut yourself off.
No, I said Saturn.
Yeah.
Who was actually, what's his face? Hades. No, that's Pluto. Oh my god. Just move away from me, everyone.
Get away!
I'm
She's
shaming-
getting her gods wrong.
I'm shaming myself. Oh my god. Oh gods.
So Hoda opens up the oven and goes, Mama Turts is coming out. Now, first of all, is this another version of Gypsy the musical?
Is this-
Mama Turts is coming out. Da-da-da-da-da. Or is it a Tism album?
Or is it a new drag family?
Ladies and gentlemen, Mama Turts.
Yes.
But no, I like
The
the idea.
House of Turts.
I like the idea of the Tism album.
From the House of Terrapin. Turts Terrapin.
Terrapin Turts. If you want to take Turts Terrapin as a name, it's yours. Nerman then decided at the end to make a twirl. Dangerous, very dangerous Nerman, tempting fate Nerman. Judging. Matt absolutely loved the story of Hayden's bake because obviously Matt has time to hear about the story. Maybe Matt's a benefactor of the Native Animal Fight Club.
He was going to sponsor
It
it.
was completely. Aria gets the losers.
Oh my god! It's like fucking Spain with the balls. Like, it's just so wrong.
We don't want offcuts. Anyway, very brioche apparently and buttery, and the spice on top that he made
What
was
are
really
these?
good.
Rockhampton oysters. Like Rocky...
Rocky Mountain oysters, yeah.
Yeah.
The spice on top was good, and the bread was really well made. Ella, they said the markings were very pretty on the kookaburra. And again, her design, you cannot fault Ella's design in any week.
It's fucking gorgeous. Those wings. I
Exactly.
loved them.
The construction was really good. The bread was ultra light, and they were very flavourful. The Kwandong bread in particular was very well distributed. And the textures
Everyone likes
were
it when
excellent.
your condom's well distributed.
Jaywin, they said it looked great. The bread was well baked. The flavours were good. But again, Maggie looks in and goes, more salt. Slightly more proving was needed too, but they said it was a really good job. Carmel, they loved the design. The bread looked well made. Matt loved the flavour. And Maggie loved the combination of Italian and native.
Yeah.
Hoda. Looked amazing.
Yeah.
Matt cut the turtle in half. Excuse me.
He was all about cutting the bread, like the animals in half. Like, slice this ocky in half.
Yeah, he really was. Good wattle seed.
Sacrificing them to the gods.
Good wattle seed. The cinnamon was really well balanced, and they said it had a very good mouthfeel. It's the first time we've seen good mouthfeel this year.
Oh my god, Saturn was Cronus. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay.
Nerman. The bread was well made. Matt absolutely loved that lemon myrtle hit and the smell. I loved that reaction. Matt cuts the bread up. He's like, "Oh my god, Maggie!" Have you calls Nerman over, and Nerman goes, "Yeah, I've made it
You know
at
what he
home."
should have done? Whacked a wick in it.
Whack a wick in it.
Whack a wick in it.
Whack a wick in it. Nerman was basically, I've done this before. The flavour was fantastic, and Matt was just nearly speechless. Like, I've never really seen Matt struggle for words, but he was struggling there. And then Aaron, they said it was more real life as a blue-ringed octopus, and he looked panicked until Matt goes, "That's a good thing, mate." I also, did you notice, I don't know if you noticed it, but did you notice that Aaron's was holding the knife?
No.
Did you not notice that he put the knife in the tentacle of the octopus?
Oh, nice.
so cool.
Spoony. That's cool.
The bread looked well baked. It had a very good feel. It was light. The flavour was excellent. They referred to it as very Moorish. At this point, there was only one winner. Aaron was Star Baker. Finally, I love them all equally, but I was so happy for Aaron. I felt so bad that he's missed out a few times.
Look, it's less about, like, you know, when you're really happy in this instance.
Everyone was
getting
good.
Star Baker. Everyone was really good. But it's kind of like, you know, he's always just been picked at the post, not because the other people didn't deserve it. They friggin' well did, but he also did well. And we don't really get to, because it's earlier weeks as well, where there's not as much time, you don't get time to dwell on maybe who would have...
No, I thought it was quite
Got up
good.
there, yeah.
And look, it was a very good week. I think everyone genuinely did well. Like I said before, that I didn't like the way they said, everyone did well and didn't name anybody. But at the end, you can do that, and they did.
Yeah. And
now,
look, no one had an actual baked disaster. A few, undercooked galettes. One that fell on someone's face.
But that was user error. That was user error.
Yeah.
But overall, it was actually a really well done week, and they did very well with the ingredients. Everyone baked quite well.
Yeah.
No one went home. Now,
no, and I'm here for more of it. I myself, I love seeing Indigenous ingredients and learning new things, and that's what this episode did. And it's been a long time, can I say, in food television, like a few years before I've seen something new.
Yeah. Now, my only issue that I had, it was only a slight issue, but I didn't like, that's too strong. I had a slight issue with the way that they set up to do the whole no one's going home. Mm-hmm. I get the whole you want to set them up with that and then go, but no one's going home.
Yeah.
Claire last week showed some genuine emotion.
Yeah. With
what happened with Nav. And they started off a little bit like they were going down that path again.
Yeah.
And I just didn't like that. And then she quickly pulled it back out of it and went no.
Yeah.
But I just didn't like that.
It was off tone.
Yeah.
It's the same with
wasn't a massive negative, but the tone was slightly off.
And that was the same for the round the table, the talk about, who's doing well. Yep. It was just slightly tone deaf.
Yes.
That's all it was.
Yep.
Was it, end of the world, we'll never watch Bakeoff?
No. It's fine. Just slightly off tone.
Yeah.
The last thing we have to talk about is obvious. Now, I said that I've never seen a better end of an episode than the Hayden singing.
Oh, he's fallen over.
Aaron, what are you doing? He's fallen over. So, we commented during the episode, Kristie commented a few times, look at that clover. It is so thick.
I did.
You did.
Because it's one of those things that happened during COVID. There wasn't a lot of lawn mowing going on, in the councils.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aaron starts running, goes to leap in the air, and takes one of the most spectacular spills you've ever seen, and bounces right up. And the hair bounced with him. It was spectacular.
It was beautiful. Because I was waiting for it, and I thought they were going to, slow it down, for him to, leap in the air, and they ended a slow motion.
On his ass.
Which they should have still done in slow motion.
Oh,
it should have been like a... Let's watch that again, folks.
Just rewinding back and forward, back and forward, back and forward. Yeah. Overall, I returned to form this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Much better. Really good week this week. Obviously, the sadness of losing Ash. But overall, the bakes this week were of a high quality. The showstopper was of a high quality. Mm-hmm. Obviously, as we said, the Nav episode should be out by the weekend, and then we will be having our chat with Ash, and that will be out at some point before next week's episode. So by the time we get to next week's episode, you will have heard 2 bonus episodes on top of this. I know. Don't say we don't give you value for your $0.
I know. For the amount of money you don't pay, we give you more.
We give you more than $0 worth of content. So thank you everyone for the feedback. Thank you everyone for listening. Mm-hmm. Until next week, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
And we'll catch you all later.
Whack a wick in it.